Hi, my name's Mark. I'm one of the pastors here at Trillium. Trillium has a simple mission. It goes like this: to awaken the Christ light in each other and shine it in the world. And it's a really simple mission, but it's actually one that's kind of tricky to bring into fruition because, see, the problem is we've fallen asleep to that essential nature of ourselves. We've fallen asleep to who we are. We've forgotten that we are all extensions of the Creator's divine love. The perfect love has been extended out, and we are the manifestations of the Creator's extended love. We've fallen asleep to that truth about ourselves. And of course, the whole idea is we need to wake up to this truth. And that's what we're doing for the season of Advent at Trillium, to wake up the aspects of ourselves to the truth of who we are. So last Sunday we had Wake Up to Hope. This Sunday we have Wake Up to Peace. Next Sunday we'll have Wake Up to Joy. And the final Sunday of Advent, Wake Up to Love. And then of course, Jesus becomes the example of awakened up person in life. He's born into the world to wake up humanity to the truth of who they are as children of God, as divine manifestations of the extended love of the Creator to the universe. The whole idea of hope, I was mentioning last week, the whole idea of hope, to wake up to hope, is to recognize there's always a way back. No matter where we find ourselves, where circumstances we're in, there's always a way back for us, or perhaps a way forward. It may feel more like it's a way forward, but there's always a way out of the circumstance, the difficulty, the challenge in life. There's no barrier to the child of God. There's no barrier to the power of God in this life of ours. And that's why we have hope, because no matter how or where we find ourselves in life, there's always ultimately a way back or a way forward from that circumstance. And I had Helen Martin, she read a story called A Sparrow at Starbucks. And the story ultimately is about a woman who finds a way back from a personal tragedy in her life. And at the very end of this reading, she has a list of things that she read. She said, it goes like this: the next time you feel like God can't use you, just remember, and then there's a whole list of Bible personalities. And they each have a little tag at the end of their name that in some ways is a limit to what they can do. It's a trap, it's a prison for them. They can't get out of it. It looks as if there's no way back for them. So it goes like this: the next time you feel like God can't use you, just remember Noah was a drunk. Talk about a dead end. Any of us have experienced addiction or compulsions or obsessions in our life know how those addictions and compulsions and obsessions feel like dead ends for us, where there's no way out. They often have the thumb over our lives. They run our lives, and it feels so often that we have lost our agency, our ability to do something outside of the addiction. And Noah's a drunk, and yet, of course, Noah becomes an instrument by God, through God, to bring blessing to the world. And the next one goes like this: Abraham was too old, and we can always feel the trap of age as we get older. Somehow our culture has said that when you're old, you have nothing really to contribute, and how age can be a barrier to our passions and our dreams, our deepest yearnings. Yet Abraham was made a promise by God to be a father to many people. Sarah, his wife, a mother to many peoples, nations. And yet they became old people and nothing had happened. And they understood this to mean that it was too late for them. It was done for them. It was over. And yet, of course, God makes them a father and mother to many peoples through the birth of their son Isaac when they were very old. See, there's no limit to the power of God in life's circumstances. Isaac was a daydreamer. Jacob was a liar, a pathological liar. Leah was ugly. Talk about a condition you can't get out of. Joseph was abused. Moses had a stuttering problem. Gideon was afraid. Samson had long hair and was a womanizer. And you just keep going down the list here till at the very end it says, and Lazarus was dead. I guess death being the ultimate barrier to us, the ultimate dead end, the place where there is really no way forward or any way back from that place of death. Of course, Jesus was raised from the dead. The death and resurrection of Jesus is meant to be a marker that the power of God is not limited by any contingent circumstances in life, that even death itself is not a barrier to the child of God or the power of God in this world. So death is not a barrier. There's even a way back from death or a way through death. Today we're called to wake up to peace. And I was thinking about this in the context of Nelson Mandela. Right as we're taping this, there's a ceremony going on for Mandela in South Africa. And Mandela is a perfect example of how someone could find themselves in a dead end, a place where there was really no way out. You know, he was in prison for 27 years, and many of those years in a really hard place. And yet Mandela finds a way to offer forgiveness and reconciliation in the midst of what would be a natural tendency for revenge and retribution. In fact, Dave, who films this, was telling me a story about the fact that when Mandela, just at the verge of leaving the prison, realized that if he fulfilled that part of himself that wanted revenge and violence on the people who had done this to him, that even though he was free bodily, he would still ultimately be in prison. He wanted to be free, and the only way forward from him was to be an instrument of peace in South Africa and the world. And he allowed the power of God to awaken in him, and the forgiveness poured out through him, and he felt not only a personal sense of peace, but he brought peace to a whole people. It was because of his singular example that South Africa is on a totally different trajectory than many of the other countries of Africa. Because of his capacity to forgive his tormentors, that he ultimately brought a whole nation along in the pathway to truth and reconciliation. That shows you the power of peace in our lives. And we wake up to peace, then we become instruments of divine providence in this life of ours. We become instruments of love. We extend love. And no circumstance can ultimately hold down the child of God when they are awakened to the truth of who they are. I mean, part of the reason we feel peace in life is we become awake to who walks with us, who goes with us in life, even into Robben's Island prison, or into death, or into the really hard places that all of us are bound to end up in life. And I pray that you'll wake up to the peace that passes all human understanding, that you will know the power of who walks with you, and you will see and understand that you are an instrument, maybe the instrument in your life to bring about the peace of God which passes all human understanding. Go do the peace. Go do the peace of God and walk in that peace. Thanks be to God.